What's up, guys? We got another episode of Should You Watch It? Today is episode 2, and it's on the 2024 remake of The Crow. Take a look. The Crow. The very mention of this film probably causes some fans of the classic to cringe. The original film is an iconic piece of cinematic history defined by Brandon Lee's tragic death during filming. Its moody atmosphere and bland revenge and sorrow that lingers throughout the narrative. So when the news broke that The Crow was getting a remake or reimagining, depending on how you see it and who you ask, it was a hard no to feel skeptical. Could anyone ever capture the magic of the original? Could a new version possibly live up to its legacy? And if it didn't, would it be a disaster? Let me tell you up front, I really wanted to hate this movie. I wanted to join the chorus of outraged fans decaying it as pointless cash grab and travesty or an insult to the original. But here's the twist. I didn't. I honestly didn't. The Crow remake isn't a masterpiece, and it doesn't hold a candle to the 1994 version. But you know what? It's not as bad as people think. Sure, it has its issues, but it also has some redeeming qualities to make it worth a watch. The premise of this, The Crow isn't exactly the same as the original, which is probably a good thing. For those wanting something fresh, the film follows a similar basic structure: someone who's wrong killed and then returns from the dead to exact revenge. But the storyline takes a slightly different angle this time. The protagonist is not a rock musician, but a former soldier who has to come back from the grave to avenge the brutal murder of himself and his fiancée. The plot may seem familiar to anyone who's seen the original, and in fact, the movie doesn't really bring much new to the table in terms of narrative complexity. But if you can detach yourself from the original shadow, you'll find that the core of the story still packs an emotional punch. The grief, the rage, the sense of injustice, it's all there. Though it's presented in a slightly more modern and stylized manner, there's a lot of heavy-handed symbolism and visual flourishes throughout the film, which at times feels like they're trying too hard to evoke the original sense of dark poetry. However, there's something to be said for the film's straightforward approach. It's a revenge story. First and foremost, it's fast-paced, with a clear-cut goal, deliver action, gore, and it succeeds at it. One area where The Crow definitely delivers is in its action and violence. If it came for brutal, blood-soaked revenge, you won't be disappointed. This movie doesn't shy away from over-the-top carnage, and there's no shortage of fight scenes, gunfights, and gritty, bloody confrontation. The action choreography is solid, and while it doesn't have the raw edge of the original film, it's still an engaging piece. The film also delivers in terms of gore. Expect some genuine, shocking, wince-inducing moments that will satisfy fans of more vertical action. It's clear that the filmmakers knew they had to deliver on the dark aesthetic that made the original so memorable, that they do so through a combination of splattered blood, style violence, and gritty set designs. The visuals themselves are slick and modern, almost too polished at times, but it works in the context of the film's and tone. Sure, it's not the same grimy, visual style of the 1994 film, but it's a different era, and the movie reflects that. There's a certain sleekness to the cinematography that complements the action-heavy sequences, but it may not be as iconic or memorable as the haunting visuals from the original. The casting is where things get a bit more tricky. While no one will ever live up to Brandon Lee's portrayal of Eric Draven, the new lead actor does an okay job in bringing in a new spin to the character. It's not a career-defining performance because, his career-defining performance was Pennywise, but it's serviceable. His portrayal of a tortured, soul-seeking revenge is earnest, and there's an emotional undercurrent to his journey. Though it's not quite as compelling as Lee's performance, the supporting cast fares a bit better, particularly in terms of villains. The antagonists are brutal and menacing, and the film does a decent job of building up the sense of danger surrounding them. That being said, some characters feel a bit underdeveloped or stereotypical, which weakens the overall emotional investments in their downfall. Still, the story doesn't linger too much on characters' death. This is a movie about revenge and action, not about exploring complex relationships. So, how do I feel about The Crow 2024? As much as I wanted to hate it, I can't. It's not the disaster some fans might be predicting. And while it isn't anywhere near the level of the original, it's still a competent action movie. The action, the gore, and the fast-paced revenge plot makes for a fun ride if you're in the right mood. It's not perfect, but it's far from a train wreck. I feared it would be. Ultimately, the new Crow doesn't diminish the legacy of the original. It stands on its own as a modern, action-heavy take on a familiar story. Is it the best version of the Crow we could have gotten? No. But it's worth at least one watch. If you're a fan of action films or enjoy a good revenge tale, this movie will entertain even if it doesn't leave a lasting impact. So, with that being said, I'm going to give this movie a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's not great, it's not terrible, but it's decent enough to keep you entertained for a couple of hours. It's a flawed yet enjoyable reimagining, and it might surprise you more than what you expect. Don't listen to all the reviews. Don't listen to all the people that absolutely dog this movie, hate this movie. Give it a shot for yourself. That's the best way to know if you're ever going to like a movie, is to try it out yourself. Watch it once for yourself, and then determine if you're going to like it or not. Thanks for watching, guys. Much love.